everyone, I'm Dr. Z and you're watching Dr. Z PhD, the place to be for expert info on gender. A few months ago I did a video on gender transition where I discussed various stages of transition, and some of you have asked me to go into greater detail of each stage. So in this video I'll discuss in greater detail what constitutes social transition for trans men or non-binary individuals who are leaning more toward masculine side of the gender spectrum. Also make sure to subscribe to my channel so that way you don't miss any new content coming from me. Now let's look at social transition in greater detail. And for today's discussion, I'd like to break it down into two categories. In the first category, I would like to explore and give you an overview of what generally constitutes to be a social transition. And in the second category, we'll discuss things to consider prior to starting social transition. And we'll explore some of the obstacles that may affect social transition. Alright, let's get started by getting an overview of social transition. Well, social transition is usually the very first step many trans men or non-binary people tend to take. Often it is accompanied with hormonal transition, which I'll discuss much more in detail in my future videos. But generally speaking, anything you do in social settings or that has to do with regards to interacting with others falls in the category of social transition. Some people start social transition simply by coming out, either to their families, to their partners, to their friends, or their co-workers. Coming out as part of social transition really communicates to people around you how you see yourself in regards to your gender. Choosing a preferred name and preferred pronouns is also part of social transition. Often people would find a way to masculinize their name to keep initials intact. So for example, I have seen Michelle change it to Michael or Jessica to Jessie, while others get very creative with choosing a name and often will even change their last name as well. Apart from coming out and choosing a name and a preferred pronoun, presenting in public is a big part of social transition. And you can really decide for yourself if you want to present part or full-time in your identified gender. Changing physical appearance as part of social transition sometimes can include wearing more masculinized clothes, or cutting your hair to a more masculine look is also another aspect of social transition, including some of the non-medical body modifications, such as wearing a binder to flatten appearance of chest. By the way, it can be incredibly painful and uncomfortable, especially for those who have bigger chest size. So please keep in mind that 1 year on testosterone is not a requirement for top surgery. So if mastectomy is something you plan to have, you can have it without waiting a year. Another way to enhance a masculine appearance is by pegging to create an appearance of male genitalia, either with clothing or pegging products one can buy on the market. And another option is stand-to-pee device. Now, a stand-to-pee device is a tube with an upturned curved opening that can be placed against or underneath the urethra. This enables urinating standing up if that's your preference. Now remember, not all men pee standing up. Many simply prefer to sit down for urination. So it's important to keep in mind that how far you want to take your appearance is really a personal preference here. Clothing and general appearance, while culturally symbolically represent one aspect of masculinity, doesn't necessarily denote what a man is. Not all men express themselves in this way, so be careful not to get lost in stereotypes. And for this reason, it is really important to spend some time thinking of how you see yourself as a man or as a non-binary. And social transition can be a great experience in helping you figure out what works best for you. Now, in general, again, anything you can do without medical or surgical intervention to get closer to your true gender is considered to be social transition. It's very important to keep in mind that social transition drastically varies from one person to another and will vary depending on how you identify or how you see and present yourself, and also which resources you have at your disposal. Which brings me to the most important point of this discussion. Things to consider prior to social transition, as well as obstacles that one might encounter. Now, one of the things to consider is to have some form of plan in mind. Are you starting social transition to explore your gender? Which is a great way and safe way to explore your gender expression. And if that's the case, take small baby steps and explore how you feel. But if you're starting social transition as a stepping stone into, or stepping stone, I should say, into your gender transition and are sure of your gender identity, think about your plan. Because once you come out to everyone, people may respond to you coming out differently. If you don't have a support system in place, it can be difficult to go through this period alone. Also consider where you work. is it a safe environment to come out at all? Because many places still fire transgender people, which is horrible, but it does happen, and that's the reality of today's workforce. So before you begin social transition, see if you can outline some kind of plan for yourself. Be mindful of obstacles you might encounter. For starters, while it is less challenging to present in masculine clothes for trans men than for trans women, there are still problems and obstacles. So for example, if you're on hormones already and your face and voice has started to masculinize, binding large chests can be problematic because sometimes it can also lead to being misgendered. And that can be a very uncomfortable and very painful experience. Again, as mentioned before, a year on testosterone is not a requirement for mastectomy. So if that's something you plan to do, you don't have to wait a year. Accessibility to resources is also another huge obstacle to social transition, especially financial resources. Now, these obstacles are in no way intended for you to prevent you from social transition. The point is being mindful that they exist. This way you can actually set up realistic expectations for yourself prior to transitioning. You can also mentally prepare yourself for any challenges that may arise. Often people see YouTubers transitioning very quickly, and I assume it will happen the same way for them. The truth is each transition is different, and a YouTuber you watched might have a great access to resources than you have, so don't really compare yourself to others. So there you go, a summary of social transition. Again, as I said, anything you can do socially without intervention of surgery is considered social transition. If you plan or have gone through social transition, do comment below and share your experience, especially any tips or insight you would like to share with others. That would be really helpful. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. And I'll see you all next Friday. Bye.